morning, everyone. I'd first like to introduce, I'm Mike Griffin. I'm the president of the Cleveland Bradley Chamber of Commerce, and I'm honored to be here to moderate this panel. We have three panelists here with us today: Benita Montgomery, Forrest Holloman, and Caitlin Dennis. And let me introduce them today. Benita Montgomery is manufacturing engineering manager at Denso. With over 21 years of experience at Denso, Benita Rogers Montgomery has established herself as a leader in manufacturing engineering, dedicated to fostering community outreach and promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, DEIB, within the industry. As a manufacturing engineering manager, she actively engages in initiatives that empower associates to improve operations through cross-functional teamwork. Recently honored as a Step Ahead Award honoree for the Manufacturing Institute, Benita is passionate about mentoring the next generation of engineers. Her journey emphasizes the importance of education and personal development, as she believes in the power of supported relationships and sharing professional success. Benita holds a bachelor's degree in biological engineering from Mississippi State University. Everybody help me welcome Benita. Forrest Holloman, Senior Human Resources Manager at Mueller Water Products. Forrest is a Senior Human Resources Manager at Mueller Water Products, where he leads people strategies across multiple manufacturing facilities supporting over 300 employees. He partners with plant and functional leadership to drive workforce planning, employee relations, and performance management initiatives aligned with business goals. He has led initiatives such as standardized wage structures, apprenticeship programs, and employee relation frameworks. His experience spans both union and non-union environments, including union avoidance strategy and collective bargaining support. Forrest holds an MBA with a concentration in human resources management from St. Joseph's University, as well as a certification as a senior professional in human resources and a bachelor's degree in business management from the University of South Carolina. Everybody, let's welcome Forrest. And last but not least, Caitlin Dennis. Caitlin is Human Resources Director at Wacker Polysilicon. Currently serving as the Human Resources Director at Wacker, Caitlin plays a critical role in shaping employee relations, driving change management initiatives, and enhancing organizational development. Her leadership style emphasizes engagement and retention, with a strong commitment to continuous improvement initiatives that foster a thriving workplace culture. Caitlin has previously held significant HR leadership roles, including Senior Human Resources Manager at Columbus McKinnon, where she managed HR functions across North America and supported union manufacturing operations. Her experience also includes overseeing non-union production facilities and implementing strategic HR policies that align with business goals. Caitlin holds a master's degree in human resources and labor relations, as well as a certification as a professional in human resources and a bachelor's degree in fine arts from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Everyone, please welcome Caitlin. Okay, so we've got several questions, and I will, and you're all welcome to chime in on any of the questions, but we'll start out with the first one. And we'll start out with this one. Okay, according to World Economic Forum's Future Jobs Report 2025, approximately 59% of the global workforce will require reskilling or upskilling by 2030 due to technological shifts and artificial intelligence. In manufacturing, up to 40% of job profiles are expected to shift to advanced technologies, creating a massive talent gap. Forrest, how is your organization adapting its training programs to stay ahead of this curve and developing necessary skills?
Yeah, Mike, I think I would start by telling you I like a cruise ship. And if you have HR people that you're going to go back to, or if you are an HR person, your HR people deserve a cruise every quarter, just so you know, and they do deserve the full drink package, by the way, with the things that they're dealing with in your operations every day. I love a cruise ship. There's one thing I know whenever I get off a cruise ship that I have to do. I have to be back by a certain time, or I'm going to be one of those 5 people that's waving and screaming and shouting at the cruise ship as it's taking off without me. And most of us make that ship. We end up making that ship. But some of us are busy sipping Mai Tais or doing whatever we're doing on our vacation. I think I look at AI and advanced tech like that, right? Like it feels like I'm going to miss the ship. I'm going to miss the boat if I don't jump on now, right? But I think there are a lot of early adopters that we can learn from in the tech space who have taken some steps that maybe have learned some lessons that we can take with us as well. We saw as soon as AI hits the scene, we see some employers dumping all their data into AI only to find out that all their intellectual property is out there for the world to see, right? We notice an over-reliance and are still seeing an over-reliance on some employers by AI, where they're maybe trusting, not verifying some of the data that they're getting out of AI. And one of my favorites is the mandatory fund that executives are giving us, where they say, hey, everybody gets a Copilot license, have fun. And now it's not fun anymore because corporate is giving it to us, right? I think the lessons that we can learn is that we need a strategy when it comes to how we handle AI and advanced tech in the workplace. And that goes double on the HR side. I think that we have to keep our employees in mind. And it's an answer to me of continuous improvement. We all have gaps in our workplaces today that we need to address. And if we don't address those, we're definitely not going to be ready for AI and advanced tech when that time comes. I've got operators who have spent 10 years operating the same machine. And the longer I work in HR, the more that feels like a good thing. Like, you know, I could see eye to eye with coming in and doing that one thing every day. But we got folks who aren't ready for advancement. They aren't ready for AI to hit the scene. And so I think a simple answer or a simple start for employers that aren't getting ready for that movement is to say, we need continuous improvement anywhere that we can get it, right? That could be some of the opportunities that they offer here. And we're taking advantage of some of those from Peak. But what are the ways that we can improve for our workforce? Maybe it's cross-training, and that's something that we all do, right? We cross-train our employees so that they're ready to backfill when somebody's out sick or when they leave the workforce, whatever it might be. But what are the ways that we can drive continuous improvement in the workplace to prepare the way for when we do eventually see AI and advanced tech hitting the scene? So doing what we know rather than forecasting what we might have from advanced tech and AI, I think is kind of a simple answer where to start for most folks.
Thank you. All right, next question. While over 86% of employers anticipate AI, staying on the same topic, AI-driven workplace transformation by 2028, approximately 77% of companies are planning or actively implementing upskilling and reskilling initiatives to prepare their workforce for AI and automatic disruption, often focused on AI literacy and data skills. This one's for you, Benita.
Okay.
What approaches are you focused on for bridging the knowledge gap between seasoned employees and new technologies?
Okay, when it comes to AI, a lot of people fail to realize that one thing that's always going to happen, and that's change. Change is continuous. Change is continuous, so your improvement should be continuous. And we have to make sure that we don't forget our people in that process. So what our company does is we make it a culture. That's a part of our culture, is to focus on the continuous improvement. We don't wait for what's coming next because we know something's coming next, because change is always going to take place. We prepare for it as we go throughout our days. We have our continuous improvement programs where we're always making it a point to upskill our associates for whatever might be coming. So I just want to stress the importance of don't wait for the win, because that's always going to happen. That's always going to happen. The change is always going to take place within your company, but your people are always going to be there. So you make it the time to invest in your people, giving them that in continuous improvement, allowing them to do the cross-functional work learning as much as they can. So when the new change comes, or the big change now that's out there, it's AI, it's a smoother transition for them because they've been working on improvements throughout their entire day when they're going into their jobs. So don't wait for the latest technology to come in. Always work with your people to continue to work with the improvement that's coming through the process. So that's the biggest thing, is you build it into your culture so that when the changes come, it's a smooth transition into it. So make it a culture of continuous improvement, partnering with companies such as Peak Performance so that they can keep you up to date on some of the newer things that might be coming in, but always making it a point to invest in your people and have that continuous improvement mindset built into your culture.
Thank you.
Mike, I'll add to,
Yes,
to
please do.
Benita's statement too. I think that Dr. Cunningham touched on it, and we kind of glaze over that a little bit. But this idea that we're changing the way that our employees are operating every day. And I know that if I went into your offices today and moved where your desk or your stapler is, that you're going to be extremely frustrated with me. And we all hate change, right? So I think it's in the approach often that we take, to Benita's point, it's the approach that we take with our employees that's going to win them over to the success side of the advancements that we're making in the workplace too. We've got to win them over too. We can't just hand them a new thing. How many of you have dead iPads sitting out on the floor back when iPads became a big deal, right? Or there's a dead Gemba board in the corner that nobody's used for 3 years, right? We didn't win people over in the change that we made in the workplace. So we lost that change because we didn't have the engagement that we needed. So we've got to win our employees too. I think it's a part of the change process for sure.
I have a different microphone, so okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, none of this is new to anybody. The communication, the change. I know with us and other companies I've worked at as well, whether it's AI or anything really, the communication on the upfront and the why to why we're doing something, giving them the resources. And I think more on we'll say your traditional hourly workforce, yeah, the co-pilots out there now, everybody has it on their computer stations, whether it's your personal laptop or in your workspace. I don't think people know what to do with it. And I'm not sure companies are necessarily, we put it out there as this fancy new thing, but then what am I doing with it? Even myself, right? Oh, here it is. So I think, again, it's going to be evolving over time. It's still very new to all of us, but as long as we're giving them a little bit of grace and then hopefully working them through the process, whatever it is, whatever the technology and the change, people usually are very receptive. It just takes time, and we have to be patient and work with them, I think is the key.
Okay, so it's estimated that companies underinvest in employee training and development by over 60%. This one's for you, Caitlin. How do you justify investing in workforce development to stakeholders who may prioritize short-term financial gains?
That is a loaded question, Mike, I will say. And Bonita touched on it. It's the culture. So again, I know where I work currently, and I'm sure all of us are going through, economic challenges, no matter what industry you work in. Things are crazy in the world right now. Companies are holding, costs close to their chest. So development typically is one of those things that always gets pushed to the side, whether it's again a training class, an external training class, or an internal program. That is, again, in my 15 years, always the first thing to go, typically. But if the company is truly invested in the future, you will see that they will continue to invest. So I can say at Vaca right now, I mean, like all of us, we're looking at where we can save, and development is not something that we've cut. We continue to invest in our whole workforce. Yeah, sometimes you can't do it as frequently, but that doesn't mean you don't still offer programs. You don't still offer different, external courses. We have a program even that we work with another community school similar to Cleveland State, where people are developed up to move into advanced roles within our hourly workforce. So that is something that we don't plan on stopping, and that's how you get competitive in the market, right? Because people will stay with you if you do actually invest in them. So when you're selling it to the leadership team, if you're just talking about money, of course, again, they want to keep their money. But if you tell them your turnover rates, right? And I can tell you in the last 2 years where at my current position, we've significantly seen a reduction in our hourly workforce just by investing in a more, we'll say, profound training scheme for them, and showing them those figures, what the efficiency, what the productivity can be if we continue to invest. But, we want to keep our people. Everyone knows that, at least 50%, if somebody leaves the company, you're spending at least that times 2 to replace them with the recruitment costs and the training. So why would we want to do that, right? But sometimes those figures aren't always recognized, right, on the upfront when you're talking about those initial costs that are going to go into the development.
Forrest, do you have anything to add to that comment?
Yeah, I'd say, to Caitlin's point, the sell is the hard part, right? Because our operations leaders, our executives, they fan through that 3-page, 5-page pitch that we sell to them, and they go, "There's the dollars. It's a no," right? And I think I've got a great example from a great operations leader that I worked with a year and a half ago. We're going to talk about pay for skill in a little bit, but trying to pitch a pay for skill program to an ops leader, and in my head, I'm thinking retention. I'm thinking I'm going to have to recruit less positions. That's great for my department. But luckily, I'm working with a seasoned operations director who says, I've done this before. It's worked really great. It's giving me operational flexibility. I wasn't selling to his point. I was selling to my point. I think the sell is the important part. And he tells me, he says, "Forrest, if you told me every employee on the production floor, or that there was a employee on the production floor who could do every job, I'm happy to pay them top dollar. I don't care what the cost is," right? It gives me the operational flexibility I need on the floor. I'm trying to sell to my point, but if I was selling to his point, I would have, I'm there automatically, right? He's on board, he's there, and we got the win that we wanted with operations when we sold it under that umbrella. So I think just the angle that you attack it from, who's your customer and who are you selling to? Just like when we're trying to sell change to our employees, what's the angle? What do they want out of it as well?
Benita, this is all you. How can manufacturers create better alignment between employee skills and their roles to improve productivity and job satisfaction?
I would say communication and engagement. I know a lot of people might find that strange, but the communication and engagement aspect is going to be key whenever you try to drive any type of change that's taking place within your company. I cannot stress this enough. Do not forget your people. When you're investing in your people and you're bringing them alongside you as you're implementing this change and allowing them to understand that they have a voice in it and that you're all in this together and you're working through that process collaboratively, that's when you have people that understand and recognize that you are a company that respect them. You're a company that knows that they have the ability to contribute to the change that's coming and that they can provide insight into anything that's taking place there. So making sure you have that communication aspect, communicating with them the change that's coming, helping sure that they understand, making space for them to have a voice in that change point that's taking place, and making sure that they're having an opportunity to engage throughout the process. The communication and an engagement process is very, very key when it comes to any type of change, whether it be AI or anything else, when you're trying to bring about changes within your company. So those are the key things I would say would be engagement and communication. Those are key. And don't forget your people. Can I say that enough?
All right. Research shows that organizations with well-structured pay-for-skills programs experience higher employee engagement and retention rates. Forrest, how have you implemented a pay-for-skills model in your company, and what impact has it had?
Denise will laugh because I'm going to say still in progress. It's not been implemented. So, but we are thoroughly in process on our pay-for-skill program. The first thing I'll say is pay for skill isn't new. Like we incentivize employees who know more already in the workplace, right? And you walk into any manufacturing operation and you've got a machine operator 1, 2, and 3 on your production floors right now, right? You've got a position like that where you incentivize someone for the depth of skill usually that they have on your production floor, right? This new idea in pay for skill is looking at more of like width, right? How can we stretch our employees across the organization and across our operation to support more areas? And let's go back to that employee I told you about who's been operating that machine for 5 or 10 years and that's all they do. Well, we're seeing new employees come on the scene, right? And I'm not going to talk generations or hate on any generations, but I've got employees that walk in the door who are not happy with sitting and operating the same machine for 5 or 10 years, right? They want, in 6 months, they want their next opportunity, and they're banging our doors down asking us, how do I get that next opportunity? And this is the pay for skill model can kind of serve as that in between for you of how you can incentivize someone in the midpoint of promoting to their next opportunity, right? So that we keep our employees engaged, and ultimately, yes, it does lead to more retention, but it also leads to more operational flexibility. We're stretching our people across the organization. So our model that we're working on, one thing that I'll speak to with our pay for skill model, Denise is also going to laugh at this one. We've rebranded at Mueller. It is skill incentive, because when we talk about pay for skill models, there's one key word in there that employees hear, and it is pay. But the idea of skill incentive is that there's more than pay to incentivize employees. And I'll give a great example. We started digging in survey data with our production leads on our production floors. And you all who have them, they are your secret sauce, right? They are the ones that are shipping product on your floor, not your supervisors. They're right there working alongside with your people on the production floor to get product out the door. We were not happy to find out that our production team leads were not very engaged and not very happy. When we talk about things like esteem, we brought our employees, our team leads in, and I'll shameless plug for you, Denise, because you did pay for my ticket and lunch today. We're putting our team leads through peak performance training, right? Introductory supervisor training was a gap for them. So I said, how are we going to incentivize them and give them something that they want to make them feel special during that time, right? So we took all the normal avenues, gave them a polo, a hat, those kind of things. The most impactful thing for my production team leads cost me $10 a person. It was 50 business cards. Have you ever started a job as a younger employee and gotten your stack of business cards and thought, wow, I'm important? I heard for 2 weeks from my team leads about how great that felt to them. And look, business cards aren't going to keep team leads on the production floor. They're not going to retain them, but it's just to speak to this idea of esteem in addition to pay, right? We're on that hedonic treadmill when we talk about skill incentive, and 6 months, that pay is not going to mean anything to the employee anymore, right? They're on to the next thing. They want the next thing. But a leaderboard where we're recognizing our top leading employees, or a sticker they put on their hard hat, recognizing them as a leading employee who knows the most skills, or whatever it might be, as an incentive that's more and just beyond the pay. The pay is going to be, that's your lead in, that gets the employee's attention. But the things that we can do to attack the esteem element of the employee psychology, right? And maybe Dr. Cunningham can give us some insights into that as to how that's working on them. But I think we're attacking it from a non-traditional standpoint more than just pay. But of course, the pay is important, and that's our lead in for the program.
Can I comment on this one
Yes,
too?
please do.
So you're in the progress of launching one. So we launched one about a year and a half ago now, fully. New program, new pay scheme at Fokker, which has been fantastic. We'll say 2024 or prior, probably one of our biggest reasons for people to be leaving the company when it comes to the hourly workforce, not just because of the pay, but the complexity in which the system operated. So yes, the money, of course, is key. But if people are also they're not able to move through the process at a somewhat timely fashion, right? Because we do have motivated employees who want to get going, and some people like to sit for a couple years and, take their time. Others want to take 6 months and they're ready to go to the next thing, whether that's in their current role or another role. I think giving them that framework of flexibility to be able to do so, and not making it so prescribed or rigid to the point where they can't progress. And then once they do progress, right, whatever that trade or field they're in is, being able to, we'll say, process on the backside, which is where we sit on the HR. So they get their increase or whatever their incentive is timely. It seems so simple, but those things cause so much frustration in the workforce, right? You put it on paper, it looks great. Is it actually being managed that way? Because if it's not being managed that way, I can tell you it leads to a lot of, difficult conversations and people exiting the company. So just keep in mind that the system can be there, but if the system doesn't work, it's not effective anyway. So rebranding is great, and relaunching, just always keep in mind, the leaders have to process, the employees have to be part of the engaged, they have to hear what's going on, they have to know, and then HR, again, most likely being the responsible party to make sure that things are happening on the backside, has to do things timely and hold themselves accountable for the employee's sake.
I don't have anything.
Good. All right.
We're good.
All right.
We're
That's good. Great answers. Okay. A study conducted by DDI and Chief Executive Magazine found that only 22% of senior executives surveyed believed their company had a highly effective system for identifying and developing leadership candidates, despite 73% citing its importance. Forrest, what best practices have you adopted to ensure a smooth transition for emerging leaders in your organization?
Yeah, I think HR people, or at least general practitioners in HR, right? 80% of our job is risk, right? Measuring, assessing, and balancing risk in the organization. That's all succession planning. The other 20%, by the way, is who heated up salmon in the break room, the employee break room, right? That kind of stuff. But the 80% that we're predominantly working on is the avoidance of risk or the balancing of risk in the organization. And that's all succession planning is. I think that there's like this idea that succession planning has to be hard and there's a secret sauce to it. I don't think that there is. I think that succession planning is just discipline, just doing it and taking the time. I know most of us are in manufacturing or close to it. Our shop floors, they buzz and hum, right? And production is king. Taking those couple hours out of the day to do some succession planning is tough. It's hard to convince leaders that they need to do it, but just doing it, I think, is the answer. As simple as that sounds, we're balancing the risk that someone leaves or is going to get hit by a bus or is going to go out on leave. That's all succession planning is. And the idea of succession planning is not going to fix the issue either, right? But it does prepare us, and it may give you the 6-month heads up that someone's a high potential for leaving, and maybe there's someone we need to move strategically to prepare the way for someone who might be leaving. Just sitting down and doing it, and I'll tell you, one of my secret sauces I'll give you then is I give my leaders a lot longer than I think they need. So a succession planning activity might take an hour, I give them 4, and then they know they've got to shut down the phone for a little bit longer when they come in the room. We're not using any secret formula at Mueller for succession planning, though. You know, it's just a basic approach, and it's just taking the time to do it. It's discipline. It's taking it aside every 6 to 12 months and doing the exercise. I would say is really our focus. That's how we're approaching it.
I'll speak one on that. Yep. So outside of your, we'll say, traditional succession planning process, I think what most of us are familiar with, another kind of platform that we do here at Vacher is development conferences. So similarly, I mean, it's in conjunction with succession planning. But you have your high performers, people who are interested in moving, whether it's within the region, the globe, they're self-selecting, right? We're not saying this person wants to do it. Maybe they really don't want to do it, right? But these are the people who want to take on more, learn new things, possibly relocate. And we're talking with them, right? We're not talking about them in an office. We're meeting with them, having conversations, giving them feedback after the conferences with the leadership team, and making sure that these team members' names are known, again, whether it's regionally, globally, or even locally, because I think, again, a lot of times we have a plan and people don't know what the plan is. So I think if the employees are part of the process and they know, again, they're bought into it, they know, hey, it may not be tomorrow, but maybe in 3 years, there's a potential that I have something more I can contribute or, give to the company. So.
No, I will say that Denso, one of the things that we do is we make it a point to, oftentimes we'll have associates that have come through that have a desire to promote or go to a different division or something, and it may not necessarily be anything available at that time, or they may not know how to get there. How do I qualify? What skills do I need to have? So we work on their individual development plans, and we make it a point to put, especially when it's someone that's trying to go to a leadership role, we have those leader advanced classes and courses and stuff that prepares them with the knowledge that they need when they enter that actual position. So some have acknowledged that, yes, I want to be in that position, and some have been identified as, I see you. We have leadership that sees associate, that sees something in them that they may not necessarily see in themselves yet, and they go through these courses, and then they understand that, hey, I do think I have this. You unlock that hidden potential that that associate may not have never even realized that they had, but you don't accomplish it unless you're having those conversations with them and engaging with them and providing those opportunities for them to learn that knowledge. So.
Great, thank you. Do we have time for a question or two?
Oh, yeah, we have plenty of time.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for our panelists?
Yeah, so if you can, I appreciate all of your comments on that. And I told you before that, when I was a supervisor decades ago, if we had an opening, we would have 200 people standing out the door waiting for that job. And once we selected and hired somebody to come in, we expected them to conform to our policies, our procedures, and the way that we do things. We're finding that today, first of all, you don't have 200 people waiting for every job that you have open. And that second of all, you touched a little bit on it for us, is they're not willing to conform to any standards or ways that you had done things in the past, and that they're looking for that what they're calling is flexibility, but what they're looking for is a personalized career plan for them. I was wondering if you had any comments on any experiences that you've had that way with that recently, and how that compares to past experience.
Yeah, we're actually for some of the first time at Mueller launching into some career mapping and career pathing for employees, and talking about not only what is your next step, but what's your next step beyond your next step. Like what's your ultimate goal in terms of your career, so that we can be properly planning. And those engagement conversations absolutely are important, and they absolutely tie into succession planning. If we plan correctly, we are identifying ourselves some folks who we should be developing careers for, right, and finding opportunities for. But we've just started launching into our, believe it or not, 170-year-old company, launching into our formal two-way conversations on development planning with our employees. But it's going great so far. I think IDPing like we always do, but also career mapping for our employees as well.
Questions?
Yep, I'll get you a microphone. We got some viewers online. Here you go.
Bonita, at the beginning, you talked about always having continuous improvement, even if it's not the next big thing. So if you're not preparing for the next big thing, what does that curriculum look like?
I'm glad you had that question out there. We have what we consider our continuous improvements, our Kaizen Circle program, and that's actually an opportunity for all associates within the company. And just this year, all levels within the company, we work on a project, because if you walk through the doors every day, there's going to be a problem, right? There's going to be a problem. It doesn't matter which department you work in, there is going to be a problem. So implementing standard tools to help associates with solving those problems is one of the tools that we do to try to help that continuous improvement. So every year we have what we classify as our quality circles. And that is when our associates are really getting involved with improving either their process or a process that's somewhere within the company. And they have an opportunity to build up on their HRD as they go through that process, because they identify which role they're going to take on that team, what problem they're going to solve, following the KPIs, understanding what the issues are, and really diving into it. So they're not only tapping into the improvements in their process, but improvements as themselves as a person, because you have to invest in your associate as a whole, not just with the job that they're doing for you within that company, but that associate as a whole. So they go through that continuous improvement process. They get up in front of people, they present their projects, they explain to everyone exactly what was the problem, how did they solve this problem, and just having an opportunity to see them build those new skills that they never even realized that they had is always rewarding. And we give them things like t-shirts and trips to Mexico, because our team's going to Mexico next week. We have
Hopefully
teams
it's a
that are.
cruise.
It's not a cruise. It's not a cruise, but it's all inclusive. It's all inclusive. So they are going to have an opportunity to connect with other Denso associates across NA to learn what other things are we doing within our company to improve the process, so they can benchmark those ideas and bring them back. Because we always have people that's doing everything new, because like I said, what's continuous? Change and improvement. So that's one of the things that we're doing to try to reinforce that continuous improvement mindset, is kind of handing them the tool, supporting them along the way, and realizing that it's all of us in this together. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah, hello. This is for Caitlin. So you said you rolled out a program about a year and a half ago, Pay for Skills, everything. So what was kind of the biggest challenge once you rolled it out that you faced with your workforce, your existing workforce, whenever you rolled out a new program like that?
So I started with Vocker in September of 2024. We rolled this out officially January 1st, 2025. So I was only there about 3.5, 4 months. It was already far along by the time I got there. But I would say one of the biggest challenges, and I know this seems not complex, but like when I heard how they were going to launch the new pay scheme, process, it was, present it in front of the employees, put it on a screen, and then make the change. One of the things that I had said is we are going to meet with every single hourly team member that's affected by this, which was at that time almost 500 people. And they're going to get an individual meeting on what is it? How does it work for them? Where did they land in the new chart? Because it was completely different from the past, different levels, different pay. I mean, some people were affected, different ways. So I think the transparency was the biggest concern that was out and about was, and again, I can only speak from what I knew from the past was, we weren't transparent in our process. People didn't understand or even know where they landed, including the management team. They didn't even know where their people were half the time. So I think, again, the communication, transparency were the struggles that we had to get through. And I think we did that well by making sure we were invested. I mean, it took about a month to meet with all of the team members across 4 different shifts because Vocker runs a DuPont schedule. So it wasn't an easy task. But going into the new year, then, of course, once you make the change, people were skeptical that would it go over well, right? Would it actually, is my pay going to be corrected? Is my leveling going to be right? Is my manager going to process my next change on time? And is it going to work? Because we had implemented different electronic ways of submitting changes, right, versus paper forms. So there was a whole lot with it, but I would say we just were honest in the process. If mistakes were made or things were missed, we told people why and we corrected it. And we didn't hide behind, trying to cover things up just because we didn't want people to know, right? So there's a lot with it. But again, I think communication and transparency, I will always also say is, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. Things aren't perfect. Systems don't always work and you have to adjust to them. But as long as you tell people what's going on, they're usually receptive to it. And like a year and a half later, we don't hear people leaving for pay on the hourly workforce side. I mean, it's just not a topic anymore from what it was.
Questions?
Still have time for a few more.
Hey, this is for anybody to answer, really, but I'm curious what challenges that you guys have seen, specifically in terms of training new talent that is going to be taking over roles that, these people have been in for 20, 30 years. They're about to retire. I've seen a lot of companies, they try to hold on to them. Hey, can you still work Monday through Wednesday, 6 to 12, and just kind of try to train them, kind of as a last resort. So I'm curious, it seems like you guys like to do a lot of things up on the front end, which I like. What challenges have you had and what successes have you had in regard to that?
I'll speak to it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what pay for skill and skill incentive is, right? It's basically compensated cross training. We're preparing for the folks who are going to leave us. We know a lot of them are going to leave us. I walk the production floor and when are you going to retire, Bill? Like, oh, you probably got another year out of me, so it's like everything you talk about, somebody's ready to retire. So it's a unique strategy that we're using through the approach that we're taking with our skill incentive program to incentivize that now and drive people in the direction of cross training rather than just hoping we can find someone qualified when they leave. Because they're getting incentivized today but then they're also a shoe-in for the promotion because it's not the same thing. They're not getting paid the same as the guy that's in that role, guy or gal that's already in that role. We're incentivizing them essentially to train and to be ready to backfill that role, almost like a premium that they're getting on their existing pay. So at least on the production floor, that's kind of our latest approach and why we desire to have our skill incentive program.
If you haven't noticed by now, I'm not the HR person. I'm usually putting in the tools that people are going to HR about. So when it comes to the tools and stuff that we're putting in, we do recognize that we do have an aging workforce. So one of the things that we try to do is implement tools to capture that knowledge before they leave the company, because we have a lot of very talented people that have been there for that extended amount of time that have you have some written documentation that can provide some type of guidance, but those associates that have been there that long have some little knacks, some hidden skills that you can't necessarily transfer over in paper. And if you don't have an associate that's ready to slide in and train in there, the best we can do is try to capture that information prior to them departing the company. So that's why you put tools in place to capture what are you doing, how are you doing that job, what are some of the risks, having that engagement with them to try to understand what are the things about this job that's not written on paper that we need to make sure that we convey to the next associate that's coming into that position. So that's when you use the tools and you work with that associate to understand that before they leave the company.
And I will say on retirement specifically, we kind of incentivize people who retire in the sense of bonuses. So like if you put a 6-month notice in, you get a bonus, your prorated bonus for the year you're in next year when we typically would get them. So people put it in earlier, gives us more time. And if the culture in the company is one that is supportive, you're able to then open the role, get it filled before the person leaves, and then have some months to work with. I mean, again, not every company I realize is able to do that or wants to do that. But I mean, again, that's where it is so important to influence the sales part of at least R2's jobs on, getting the leadership buy-in on. I mean, you lose that stuff otherwise. And unfortunately, knowledge transfer is not always the easiest or documented well. So it's all about the strategy. I mean, your own organization and what leadership is willing to kind of take on, I think.
Yep, I got another one.
Just to follow up to skills-based pay, we have several of those in process, and through reflection of some of those and new introductions of ones that's on the cusp, specifically around automation, maintenance, welding, what particular methodologies are you using to determine proficiency attainment rather than, oh, I've done this for 2 weeks, I've got the skill? How do you determine proficiency, and if you're using a specific methodology for that?
So we have welders at Bacher, a whole crew, pipe welding specifically, which is more advanced than some of your more, we'll say, typical production welding. So for us, we utilize different testing on the upfront when they're coming in, whether it's an OCTI or a Ramsey test to get the initial skill set with one of the schooling institutes around the area. And then we have them as part of our pay scheme on site, which we call them skills blocks. So when they come in, they go into our block 1, right? That's our internal program that dictates the training and development they need with us. And then their first block is time bound. That's the only one that is time bound, because we do have an expectation for training and development and just learning your safety mindset within the site. And then from there, every block after has, again, competencies and expectations that are required for them, because at that point they are showing us what they know right on the job and or passing tests or certifications. So I'd say it's a combination of, on-job certifications. We have, of course, people on our own site who are certified, so they also watch. But that's kind of how we've managed through it. And then they progress, incentivize, so on and so forth as they develop with us.
To add to that, I promise Denise is not paying me, but she should. When we utilize Peak to kind of do some of the analysis in partnership with Dr. Cunningham's students, they helped us do a lot of that yuck work that we hate to do. That's like the nitty gritty and the science of it all, right? And the analyses that you get on all the jobs ultimately helps you know what the check boxes are that you need to say someone is qualified for the role. So we really leaned heavily on Peak to help us kind of determine what those factors are so that we can then measure them. We really didn't know what we should measure, right? Other than, to your point, it's like, what's the on the job look like? And yeah, you can do this. And some supervisor that says, yeah, I like this guy. He's good for this. We're going to put him in the role and he gets the incentive. So more of a scientific approach based on, the true checklist of what do they need? What are the skills, both soft and hard, in the job in order to say that they've achieved that proficiency in that role.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because at Mueller, I have met with even your training and learning folks, and they were going to electronic checklists, which I think is a best practice that we've seen, where they're badging in and badging out and locking in and locking out.
Yeah, because the system will not allow them to operate in that cell if they don't have the correct check boxes. So it is really an advanced step for us, and is going to help us kind of control it. Even there will be some factors like, they have to recertify over a certain period, right? If they haven't used that skill on the job in 6 months to a year, do we need them to recertify? It'll automatically trigger those things in the system for us so that, we don't put an operator on a role who hasn't done it for 3 years. It'll kind of put triggers in place for that as well.
We could do one last one, because I thought I saw somebody else wanted to ask one over here.
Still got time for one more.
All right, let's give
What
our
a
panel and our
fantastic job.
moderator. Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you.